Alright, and then after this I will have a final pass. Basically Control Shift E to combine everything together. Control A, select all, Control C, copy, and I'll copy this one over here. And this one will be my blur. So go to um, filter, blur, go to lens blur. Alright, so I already set this up already, but this is just pick your alpha map, right? Exactly the same one that we just saved. And then there's a blur focal distance you can play around with. I usually just play blur focal distance and radius. That's the two that I touch, basically. So you can see we'll focus on here, and in the back it's blur. Alright, so you give it a nice feeling. So it's blurred. But if you think, you can see before, after, before, after. If you think this is too much, I'll get it down. Make it like, what, 60, 70? Now, depending on you. But there you go. Um, then you have a final render like this. It's pretty easy to do. And then if you want, this is, in my case, this is Street Fighter, so maybe I would just put a Street Fighter logo over here, and your name, and who did it, or the project name over here. So that's basically my whole process of doing a color render in ZBrush in Photoshop. And I already explained everything in the black and white rendering ZBrush, but I told you guys if you want a better quality, you can do exactly the same step, but for your black and white. So if I do this over here, let me just move this up. I can't move this up here. Alright. That looks pretty good too, right? Just black and white, and this is ZBrush render. Go back to layers. This is black and white. So what I'm saying is just black and white you can do something good as well. Like just play around the material, compositing together. But to me, compositing you can do a lot of stuff, but not liquefied or using your painting. Uh, some people just create a layer and they just start painting on the top of um, your model. It's in my opinion, it's okay for concept artists because they're not focusing on 3D. They're focusing on present an idea, a concept that's more like the final. But if you're a 3D character artist or 3D artist, I think compositing is basically using all the image that you have rendered out and compositing them together. You can use mask to mask something off, that's fine, but not go in and hang painted stuff. That's just my opinion. Um, but later we will describe all the layers and the settings for keyhot as well. All right. Hope you guys liked the tutorial. Thank you so much. So basically, this is one of the final render that I have. I have the other ones. Like, let me. So render. So I have this one as well. And just a simple compositing in Photoshop using the keychart render that I had before. And this one is more showing all the different angles with color. So yeah, um, and the method is exactly the same. So let me explain to you guys from all the base. All right. So I basically, this is what I do. Um, one was um, higher spec. All right, a second. So I show you over here. This is what I'm rendering for. Not render. This is just for the cloud map. Basically, just mask black and white. Um, but it will be. Let me just put any skin on the top. Skin. Anyway. Okay. All right. So this is what I'm talking about, the roughness. So I usually do a roughness lower. I don't need to render, so I just paused it. Um, one lower number, one higher number, so I can have two choices, or I can even choose in between in Photoshop in the layers. So this is what I did over here. One is higher, one is lower. So this is at 31, right? If I go to 100, this will be basically really last um, spec. This is high, low. So I just basically do around in between around that was like 31, 30, 31. Yeah. All right. So then I'm adding rim light, and this is the rim light that I have, and all this on care is over here and here showing the silhouette. So rim light. By the way, rim light just looks like. Let me show you something like this. A second. Can you find it? Alright. So here. That's the ring light that I'm adding on top. Alright, so I have all these basic renders. Base color. This is rim light. And have the other base color. I have subsurface scattering basically. And a shadow map. And I have a spec map. And that's exactly that I was talking about to you guys. So I'm just composing with this image. So try not to overcomplicate it, whatever you're working on with your render. For example, I used to do this kind of mistake. For example, I like this base render, but I liked it in the other lighting. For example, um, let's say one is a top-down lighting, and the other one is basically the light from the side or the other side. What I'm saying is, if the basic lighting information or the color is too different, it will be really hard for you to compositing in Photoshop. And at that point, I know you want to composite all together, but at that point, you're just kind of wasting your time and make your work more complicated. So basically, no matter what I do with my render, I try to keep it more simple, and I try to render everything from similar light condition or light color or light source. So you guys can see the rim light over here, like it's rim light, but it's just front and back, so it's not too different. So all this image, you can see this is a color, more like a color difference over here. So I believe I didn't use this one, but if I use this one, it's more like for the year and for the clothes and the head that I have. Alright, so simple. Alright, so I got rim line number 2 over here, basically adding some reflection that you see for the armor and for the head part. And then I got shadow. So when I get shadow, basically everything will be more grounded because it's adding all the shadow paths on the top of it. just like this. All right. And the spec. You can see the spec is showing something over here. And also make the skin a little bit more contrasty. And here as well. So that's the spec. And then the eyes. The eyes is basically I take one of a render, right? And I play the level adjustment a little bit and use a mask and make it a little bit brighter. And that is it. I have shadow 2. Basically I want to create a more um, feeling, the lighting feeling. Just like it's not all the way down, but it has like a fall off. So let me show you this one. I think this one will be this one. Yeah, so it has a fall off over here and adding a little bit shadow information. And that is it. This is the final render and I got mask so I can delete the background if I want and all that stuff. So it's easy enough, but the result is not bad, right? So just try to do yours and try to make it simple, but not overcomplicated. This is pretty important, not overcomplicated. So try to basically do around 5 or 6 renders and then compass them together. All right. Okay. So I believe this wrap up of everything that we need to talk about for this tutorial. Um, so in the end, you should have, if you listen carefully and practice by your own, you should be able to do a pretty good anatomy study asymmetrically from a sphere and also know how to do the secondary shape, the surface detail, the basic skin color, skin texture, and rendering keyhot and compositing in Photoshop. So basically that's my workflow for all my personal project. So again, hopefully you guys like the tutorial. And I know a lot of people have been asking me to do a game modeling tutorial. I'm thinking about doing it, but our studio is in pretty heavy crunch right now, so I can't guarantee when will I be finished. I'm trying my best to do a little bit here and there every day, but hopefully this will help some of you understand the anatomy, how to sculpt the pose, and symmetrically, and doing texture and render and compositing, all that. All right, thank you guys again for the support. Um, Please, if you like my work, go to my Facebook again, my Facebook, and just like the page, and I will all the professional and personal work constantly update in my art station and also my Facebook page. Okay, so special thanks for Alicia, who is my model for this one, and for Chris, for all my team members, for the critiques and all that. Again, hope you guys like the tutorial. Email me or message me on Facebook if you have any question regarding to the tutorial. Thank you guys so much. Have a great one.